Well, for more on what's at stake as the international community logs on this Saturday, we can cross now to London and speak to Tom Burke, who's the chairman of Third Generation Environmentalism. Thank you very much for being with us here on France 24. Now, we just heard some of the opening statements there, with leaders clearly determined to do more. What are you hoping will concretely come out of today's meeting?
I think the really important thing is contained actually in what we've just heard from both those leaders. We're really beginning to see a restoration of political momentum to the need to tackle climate change. We know what we've got to do it. We've got the technology we need to solve the problem. We know it won't damage our economy to do it. What we've really got to do is get on with it and deal with the really difficult problems, which are the political problems. So it's very encouraging to see that this amount of political attention is being paid and we're restoring momentum. The thing to remember about climate change is not only that we have to get to the right place, but we also have to get there in time. And that means we have to basically have removed fossil fuels from our economies by around the middle of the century.
Now, the UN this Saturday is calling for states of climate emergency to be declared. What exactly does the Secretary-General mean by that, and how might that be interpreted across the globe from government to government?
Well, it'll be interpreted in many different ways, I'm sure, by different governments. But you've only got to look at the kind of pictures we've seen throughout the course of this year, where countries have been beset by floods, have been beset by really severe weather extremes and hurricanes, have been beset by fires, to realize that they're not exaggerating when they say that this really is beginning to cause an emergency in the lives of people all over the planet. And so they're right to stress the urgency of this problem. And what that means is really the public should now expect them to get on with doing more faster. Though what Paris Agreement did was set the world a very solid foundation for going forward, we've now got to build a house on that foundation. And that's really the task in front of us, and the task that we've got to see real progress on when the leaders come together again in Glasgow at the end of next year for the big summit then. They will have to have made real progress and demonstrate it.
Now, in the new year, a key page could well be turned in this climate agenda when Joe Biden takes office as US president. His predecessor, of course, pulled out the US from the Paris Accord. Just how might things change under Joe Biden's rule?
Well, I think that what Joe Biden coming back means you've now got a really powerful triangle with the EU, with China and with the United States, all providing a firm foundation for the world as a whole to go forward. So I think that's a really important. But we've seen the willingness in other countries, the EU just this week committing to reduce emissions by at least 5% by 2030. The British government saying it will get to 68% by 2030. The Chinese government coming in a couple of weeks ago saying it's going to agree to net zero by just after the middle of the century. We really are beginning to see a build-up of momentum now. The issue going forward is to turn those very strong commitments from the politicians into real action on the ground and real investments in the economy.
Now, Mr. Burke, some might say that the world is facing a more pressing crisis in the form of the coronavirus pandemic. What do you say to those who say that global health is more urgent and pressing than these climate worries?
What I say to them is it's a very powerful reminder that we all live on the same planet, and just like the virus is something we all share, so is the climate. And the real way to link those two issues is to say, how do we restore, what is the right way to restore our economies now that they've taken a big hit from the virus, and to take the opportunity that presents to invest in a fossil-free future. And a fossil-free future is possible if we make those right investments as we bring our economies back to life because of the virus. So it's to take more benefit from the virus than it is to say somehow we should deal with that and not the other, which I think is just a great failure of imagination.
Okay, Tom Burke in London, thank you very much for being with us.